What does it mean to be a creature in 2022? I guess it's about living life according to nature's laws, right? No rules, no responsibilities, just primal instincts. You wake up, you do what you feel like doing that day. Maybe you prowl the grasslands for food. Maybe you lounge around all day. And when your family comes to visit, you aggressively defend your territory against any intruders. The only problem with this is that most of us don't live like animals. We're not free to roam the wild and do whatever we want, whenever we want. Instead, we have bosses who tell us when to come into work and customers who expect us to show up on time. And if we try to claw at their eyes when they try to enter our home, they'll call the cops and we'll get arrested. This is why being an animal isn't really an option for us humans, or is it? Well, thanks to social media, Gen Z has found a way to live like animals without having to, actually be one. They've created a digital identity for themselves where they can express their true selves without the constraints of real life. But what does that mean exactly? Is it good or bad? Let's find out. First off, let's talk about how Gen Z spends so much time online. It's no secret that young people are glued to their phones. In fact, a recent survey found that Gen Z spends more than twice as much time on social media as millennials do. On average, they spend 3 to 5 hours a day scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. That's a lot of time, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, researchers predict that Gen Z will spend a total of 300 billion hours on social media this year. That's the equivalent of 37 million full-time jobs. So yeah, social media is a big part of Gen Z's lives. But why is that? Well, for starters, it's just fun. Social media is a great way to stay connected with friends and family. It's also a great way to meet new people and stay up to date on what's going on in the world. But there's more to it than that. For many Gen Zers, social media is also a way to express themselves. With so many different platforms available, they can choose the ones that best reflect their interests and personality. And this is especially important for Gen Z because they're the first generation of digital natives. They grew up with the internet and social media. So it's only natural that they would use these tools to express themselves in creative ways. Take TikTok, for example. This platform has given rise to a whole new form of entertainment. Short-form videos are now the norm, and Gen Z is leading the charge. They're the ones creating and consuming the most content on TikTok. And it's not just silly dancing videos either. Gen Z is using TikTok to express themselves in all sorts of creative ways. They're making comedy sketches, lip-sync battles, educational content, and even music videos. The possibilities are endless. But it's not just TikTok. Gen Z is making waves on all sorts of social media platforms. For example, there's Instagram, which is a great place to share photos and videos with friends and family. But Gen Z has taken it a step further. They're using Instagram to build brands. Many of them have become influencers with large followings who hang on their every word. And then there's YouTube, which is a great platform for sharing longer-form videos. Gen Z is taking advantage of this by creating channels dedicated to their passions. They're talking about everything from beauty and fashion to gaming and fitness. And because they're so passionate about what they do, their videos are often high quality and informative. Now, you might be thinking that all this time spent on social media is a bad thing. After all, it's not real life, right? Well, that's a fair point. There are some potential downsides to spending so much time on social media. For example, it can be addictive, and many Gen Zers have struggled with this. There are also concerns about privacy and security. After all, when you spend so much time on social media, you're sharing a lot of personal information. But overall, the benefits of social media outweigh the risks. For Gen Z, it's a great way to express themselves and connect with others. And when used responsibly, it can be a positive force in their lives. Of course, there are some people who abuse the system. We've all seen those TikTokers who do dangerous stunts or post hateful messages. But that's not the fault of social media itself. It's the fault of the people using it. So yeah, Gen Z is definitely making the most of social media. They're using it to express themselves, connect with others, and even make money. But what does this mean for their mental health? Well, it's complicated. There are a lot of factors that contribute to someone's mental health, and social media is just one of them. But it's hard to deny that it plays a role. For some Gen Zers, social media is a source of validation. They get that from likes, comments, and followers. The more popular they are on social media, the more validated they feel. But for others, social media is a source of anxiety and depression. They compare themselves to others and feel like they're not good enough. The constant pressure to look perfect and say the right things can be exhausting. It's also important to consider the impact of social media on body image. Many Gen Zers are constantly bombarded with images of unrealistic beauty standards. This can lead to body dissatisfaction and disordered eating. It's no wonder that studies show that Gen Z is more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression than previous generations. So what can we do about this? Well, first off, we need to be aware of the issue. We can't ignore the fact that social media is having an impact on Gen Z's mental health. We also need to be proactive. We can't just sit back and wait for things to get better. We need to take steps to make sure that Gen Z is growing up in a healthy digital environment. This means teaching them how to use social media responsibly and being there to support them when they need it. We also need to be realistic about the impact of social media. We can't pretend that it's not a problem. We need to acknowledge the negative effects and work to mitigate them. We need to teach Gen Z that it's okay to take breaks from social media and that it's not the only thing that matters in life. We also need to teach them how to deal with cyberbullying and online hate. Unfortunately, this is something that many of us didn't learn growing up, and it's left us vulnerable to the nasty side of the internet. But we can't pass this problem on to Gen Z. We need to make sure that they're prepared to deal with it. Finally, we need to lead by example. If we want Gen Z to use social media responsibly, we need to model that behavior ourselves. We need to be mindful of our own social media use and make sure we're not contributing to the problem. We also need to be positive role models for Gen Z and show them that there is more to life than social media. Let's face it, the future of social media is in the hands of Gen Z. They're the ones who grew up with it, and they're the ones who will shape it. So it's up to us to make sure that they have the skills and knowledge they need to succeed. We need to teach them how to use social media responsibly and be there to support them when they need it. And hey, if we all pitch in, I'm sure we can create a better digital world for Gen Z. In the meantime, though, I think we can all agree that Gen Z has done a great job so far. They've taken something that was meant to be a tool and turned it into an extension of themselves. They've made social media their own, and in doing so have created a space where they can thrive. So to all the Gen Zers out there, keep being yourselves. You're shaping the future, and we can't wait to see what you do next. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. I want to talk about this image. This is an image of a coyote. And if you're thinking, wait, why are we talking about coyotes? Well, let me explain. First off, thank you guys for giving this video a thumbs up. It helps out tremendously, and it signals to the platform that you like our content, so they will show it to more people. So thank you so much for doing that. So in this video, I want to share with you something that I have been witnessing online, and it has to do with the idea of what I call animal branding. Animal branding is when somebody identifies themselves with an animal. Now this could be any animal, but this coyote, I believe, is specifically a coyote. And there's two coyotes here. There's two coyotes in this image. And before you ask, no, this is not an NFT. This is actually part of a larger movement on social media where many members of Gen Z are identifying themselves with animals. Now some of you may be asking, why does this matter? Who cares? But this is actually part of a larger movement in terms of how Gen Z perceives their identity and their sense of self and how they want to represent that online, because these are public profiles and Gen Z is totally hooked on tech, right? But it's not just about scrolling through social media or binge-watching shows. A new survey reveals they've crafted a whole new identity online that's different from their real-life selves. So, what does this mean for the future? Imagine a generation growing up with more online personas than real ones. Today, we're diving into how this trend is shaping young minds around the globe. It's pretty wild, don't you think? So let's start by taking a look at the survey that was conducted by the advertising agency Publicis Groupe. The survey asked over 10,000 people across 28 countries about their online behavior and identity, and what they found was really surprising. For Gen Z, which is defined as anyone born between the years of 1997 and 2012, they found that 63% of them had created an alter ego that they use online. This means that nearly two-thirds of Gen Z spends time crafting a new identity for themselves in the digital world. What's even more interesting is that this new online identity is not just a persona that they adopt to be funny or to get attention. It's actually a completely different version of themselves that they want to be.